1. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Green Gaming Fest 2023. It's still me, Quacksilver, here on the hosting mic, and I am so excited for this next little mini block. We have a fantastic double header of indie games here. It's going to be Uppercaserole coming at you with Death's Door into some Hollow Knight. Before we begin, I just want to shout out a couple incentives for the remainder of the day. We have opened the Remember Me difficulty upgrade. There are 2 tiers of that, both to upgrade to medium and then to upgrade to hard. We also have a bid war currently open for Lone Fungus between Selfish and Abandonment ending, as well as a Dunk the Robot incentive open for Haiku the Robot. That's going to be late tonight. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Uppercaserole. Take it away.
Greetings, fellow bipeds. Welcome in. This is Death's Door, a really cool little indie game. Today we're doing any percent no major glitches on the latest patch. I'm joined on comms by the wonderful Mathulu. How are you, Math?
Hello. I'm doing well, Upper.
All right. And without further ado, I guess we can get started. I will begin in 3, 2, 1, crow.
Good luck.
Thank you. All right, so this is Death's Door. This is, as I said, indie, not a Metroidvania. I guess it's sort of more like a classic Zelda game. Hack and slash, top-down, isometric view. And we're just going to adventure our way through the offices of the Commission.
Yeah, the most important thing to know about this game, if you haven't seen it before, is that you play this cute, adorable little crow and nothing bad ever happens.
Nope. But yeah, we are a Reaper of Souls. Our job is to go around reaping the souls of those who have lived for too long. So we're talking to Chandler, the handler, to get our first task, and then we're immediately going to save and quit, as we're going to do quite a bit in this game, as it typically takes you back to the last door that you walked through, or in our case, our first door. Oh.
Yeah, this particular one's a bit of a special case that we get transported to a door that we haven't even yet gone through. For most of the time, you'll be returning to those doors. They're checkpoints, effectively. There are a couple of other special cases in the game, but we'll be using that for routing pretty frequently.
So here we have our first boss fight. We kind of skipped the entire tutorial area, but this is the Demonic Forest Spirit, and it's showing our sort of high DPS damage rotation, which is to do heavy attack, light attack, and repeat.
Yep, and that's the first boss down. Pretty quick. If you blinked, you might have missed it, but there was a shot through a wall that happened just a minute ago to skip most of the intro area. There are a few places in the game where walls are more suggestions than actual barriers, so we'll be taking advantage of that. This is the no major glitches run, however, so we won't be taking the most extreme advantage of some of those. Maybe oversights is the the proper word for that, but this run will stay in bounds and simply use some of the terrain to our advantage. It is an isometric game, so there are cases where the geometry looks like it should be stopping you, but actually doesn't, and also cases like this where you can roll off a cliff and skip just a couple of seconds.
Mm-hmm. We're going to grab our first door. So these doors are our fast travel mechanism. And I'm also going to grab my first soul orb, which is our main currency in this game. I hope throughout these 2 runs that I'm doing that I'm not going to misspeak. In this game, soul is money, and in Hollow Knight, soul is mana. So, you know, I may get that wrong numerous times, but we need some soul to buy some upgrades that we'll be getting throughout this run.
Yeah, the word soul gets a little overloaded across video games, but running these 2 back-to-back is definitely cause for some confusion.
All right, so we've grabbed a key. We're going to enter our first sort of arena here. This game has numerous arenas where you sort of get locked in and have to deal with waves of enemies that sort of spawn in sequence. Their spawn order is always going to be exactly the same. But once they spawn, they can do, you know, whatever they want. So, oh, yep. My game is like actually somewhat lagging. I might during the first big cutscene see if I can like do anything with the screen share to like minimize it or something, because it is going a little bit awkwardly right now, but that's okay. Worse things have happened.
Yeah, the way most of these arenas work, as Upper said, there's a lot of enemies that will spawn in a set pattern. So most of the strategies in these arenas are around either killing them at their spawn location or manipulating the enemies into somewhere very specific that we're able to then develop quick strats to defeat them. There are a couple of exceptions to this where if anything goes wrong, then improvisation is needed, but hopefully for most of the arenas that will not be the case. The NPC we ran into there is known as Steadhome, and Steadhome is a wonderful character who we will not be seeing again in this particular run, but if you're interested, go check out either a 100% run or a true ending run, or play the game casually. Steadhome's great.
It's true. Yeah, Steadhome taught us about our couple different attack patterns we have. So we have our light attack, which deals normal damage, our heavy attack, which deals double damage. We can also charge up our heavy attack. If you charge it for a second or so, you get triple damage. And we also have a roll slash, which deals double damage as well. And coming up into this next arena, this will introduce the concept of deflecting. So some enemies have projectiles that you can deflect. And when you deflect an attack, it'll deal double the damage of whatever attack you deflected it with. So a fully charged heavy deflect here is going to deal 6 times damage and just one-shot that mage that has 5 HP.
Yeah, and especially for
really
these
cool
mages, that's very, very good, because these mages will teleport randomly. So they are where some of our strategies can break down if the mages get away. We won't know where they're going to be spawning because they can appear in random locations, so you have to adapt. So if we can kill them at spawn, that helps a lot, and those deflects are dealing a lot of damage to help us do that. Yeah, these grunts here are enemies that we're going to be seeing quite a lot of throughout the run. So Upper, I believe you run with the low strength threat now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the olden days, before we routed out some strength upgrades, it used to be that those grunts would die always in a single heavy slash and then 2 light slashes. That has now changed. Upper will not be getting quite as many strength upgrades. Will be 1 strength level lower for several portions of the run. So the grunts can be a bit more problematic in later arenas. But strategies have been developed for all of the late arenas now with it. This boss here is the Guardian of the Door, and it's the first really difficult boss, I think, in this game. The strategy, especially that Upper is using here, is particularly scary, where, there we go, nicely done. He wedges himself in between the Guardian and the back of the arena. During that phase, normally the Guardian shoots basically air puffs that push you away. By standing there, we can stay and deal damage, but it is easy to also take damage because you are standing directly underneath a gigantic boss that doesn't want you to be there. So nicely done, Upper, to dispatch the Guardian without too much trouble there.
Yeah. And a note on healing, as you can see, we're at 1 HP. I haven't had any chance to heal since the start of the game, actually. So I'm sorry, I'm going to alt-tab out here quickly and see if I can do something with my screen share to minimize lag or something. I guess not really, eh? Okay, well, we'll just survive. That's fine. Okay. So yeah, healing. Yeah, the only way to heal in this game is by saving and quitting, walking through a door, which we can only do at certain spots, and planting seeds. So this game has 50 seeds strewn throughout the world and 50 pots in various locations. You can pick up a pot, plant it pick up a seed, plant it in a pot. It'll grow into a flower, which you can use for a full heal. Those are typically very slow. We are going to pick up a few seeds, but for the most part, we just sort of have to go without healing, as we do in the very early game here. I've fought 2 bosses in 2 arenas without any chances to heal. I'm going to take a safety heal as soon as I walk through this door, though, by just doing a save and quit, since it's going to hard save my location as soon as I walk into this cemetery.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the
Quick save
doors
quick will give me a quick little heal.
Yeah, get a nice checkpoint there for free and a quick heal. Because yeah, the early game is not very forgiving with the opportunity for heals, and since you don't want to go through the entire next area on 1 HP, especially not in a marathon setting.
No, we do not. And even we've talked a little bit about this low strength route. This low strength route has to go even farther without a save quit. The higher strength route got a save quit since you wanted to backtrack for a soul orb anyways, but that's been cut out, so even longer with no healing in the early game, which is fun.
Absolutely.
Fun in quotation marks, I guess.
Really selling the low strength route to me right now, Upper.
Yeah, right. Well, it's the top 3 runs on the leaderboard now are all low strength, so it is very much.
Yeah.
I've been running this route for a long time, but not many other people have. But it's finally sort of been fully recognized as faster, and the top runners are all picking it up, which is cool.
Yeah. The march of optimization continues, but it turns out it does in fact save time to not have to get upgrade materials and extra upgrades if you can learn how to get good at the fights with fewer upgrades, as Upper has been doing for quite a while now.
Math, it's April, not March.
One beautiful thing about both this game and this community is that this game is full of puns, and the community embraces that, to say the least. So that won't be the last one, I promise you, chat.
Likely not. Oh no. So this is a scary arena because unlike a lot of the arenas where enemies are spawning, these enemies are just here the whole time, so they have plenty of chances to move around and give you a new and refreshing patterns with which to totally confuse you. But we made it through okay, I guess.
Yeah, still alive, and glad that the safety heal was there.
This is why we take the safety heals. So yeah, our goal is to light these torches. We've done that's the right side of the estate. Now we need to go and do the left side. There you see Pothead. We skipped Pothead earlier by jumping up onto the hedge. It saves us from talking to them. They are an adorable NPC, but unfortunately kind of slow to talk to.
Yeah, and skipping Pothead there skips not 1 but actually 2 cutscenes, because then Pothead doesn't actually move. Oh, did that deflect? Just
yeah. Wait, what? Did I light the torch with it? Did I hit it through the fire, or did it just light it because it's a fireball? That's a good question.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back and watch the tape on that one. I've certainly never seen that. Wow.
But yeah, we're lighting a bunch of torches by lighting our arrows on fire, but apparently you can do it with mage projectiles. Who knew?
We're learning so much here.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first big time save. Well, this probably doesn't save very much time, but it wouldn't be the first big time save discovered during a marathon or race setting, as Ice Arena skip was a thing that
That's
someone
true.
accidentally did during a race, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I remember that actually. That's always the best place to, lab new things, is during a marathon.
Right? I'd say so. So here we have the third and final cutscene with Pothead, or in our case, the first. But we're gonna go raid the. What are we doing? We're in the Manor of the Urnwitch because something Death's Door. We need to go reap some giant souls, and this is the first of the 3. So there's a grandma that lives in this mansion that we are gonna go beat up. Something like that.
Yeah, we're breaking into the house of an elderly woman. It's all quite above board, though, I promise. Yeah, the Urnwitch is one of the major bosses. We won't actually be seeing a ton of her during this section of the run, and actually it's quite a while before we see more of her. But basically, the idea behind this entire game, the primary story, is that there are several individuals who have effectively gathered or gained the ability to live for maybe not forever, but for an extremely long period of time through ill-gotten means and the hoarding of giant souls. So the idea is basically we need to go and fix that. Our job is a Reaper, and yeah, this is where the first one lives.
Did you get it? Yeah, there we go.
Ooh, nice.
Fill and skip, where you shoot a arrow through this entire room, skipping this whole puzzle. That's pretty tricky to aim. You don't have really good visual cue for it, but we did get it.
that was nicely done. Yeah, it's very tricky because obviously you can't actually see what you're aiming at all. And like Upper said, there's also not great visual cues in the room because you're shooting into a basically dark hallway. But with the right trajectory, you can actually get that. So that's some of what the joys of the isometric game design here can allow us to do. Also, nicely done going through all of that on 2 HP and not having really any problems with it.
Yeah, this is in theory our first actual save quit that we're supposed to take in the run that actually gives us the heal. So we should have done the whole first 15 minutes of the run with no healing optimally up until this point, which is kind of crazy. It's not too bad. Obviously, it's the start of the game. It tends towards easier stuff, but you know, it's still a pretty long section.
Yeah.
And probably one of the longest, if not the longest in the game, where you have to go without healing.
Yeah, there's a number of seeds that you can pick up pretty easily along the route, but they all, I guess, come at that, you know, really the first one is halfway through the manor here, and or halfway through that first part of the manor, and the second one is there. So you really don't get a lot of options.
All right, here we have our friend of the big pot. I'm just going to try to wedge them in the corner and then beat them up, essentially.
Yeah.
How this works, I've messed this up. I need to fail. Okay. They do their tornado attack, which seems like it should deal damage to you, but if you roll into it, during your roll you have iframes, and then if you roll through the tornado, you sort of become immune to the tornado for a couple of seconds. So you just have to keep refreshing your roll every couple seconds, and then you can just stand right next to them and beat them up.
Yeah, that was one of the more annoying fights in the early parts of the run, and of course it immediately is followed by this room, which is the
completely no problem whatsoever. I don't know what you're talking about. We're thriving.
Everything here is exactly as intended. These imps are friends and allies, and everything is fine. Yeah, so there's finding
a nice
those
pot
traps...
I can heal here, though. So
yeah,
gonna plant that flower and get it on the way out.
Nicely done though, getting through and blocked there. Yeah, finding those strats for the big pot was pretty nice, but also very scary because of the fact that you are technically standing inside of an active hitbox. You're just using iframes to get through it, so it's easy to mess up a little bit and take kind of a lot of damage.
Yeah. The plus side of killing literally every single imp in that room is that I do have a lot of extra soul now, which is nice, because the soul routing in the early to mid game is actually extremely tight. We're going to be getting like exactly enough soul to get some upgrades, and getting all those random imps certainly helps.
Yeah, we didn't talk much about it, but the soul comes like you'd probably expect for the primary currency in just about any game. You can get individual pickups, which are these 100 valued soul orbs that Upper has been grabbing, or you can kill enemies for a smaller amount depending on the enemy. So getting all those imps definitely makes things a little bit easier.
All right, this is basically the worst arena in Manor. There are these grunts that will keep respawning even if I kill them until I kill the main enemy here.
Yeah,
so I killed them there. They're going to respawn because I'm not going to kill this dude fast enough, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, so it goes. Yeah, this is the main enemy here, and the arenas here in the estate are actually a little bit interesting in that they aren't technically set by location, but by the order that you do the arenas in. So the first one is a Lickitung that's by itself, and sort of teaches you how to defeat it. The second one is this grunt arena, where these grunts will spawn infinitely as you try to deal with it. The third one will be a mage arena, and we'll be seeing that pretty shortly.
Wasn't Pokemon Let's Go earlier in the run?
Yes,
Or
we did
earlier
have
in the day,
we did
rather?
have Treveria running Let's Go at early this morning.
Nice.
But there are Lickitungs in this game too. What? Yeah, that's just what the community calls those enemies. I believe they're formerly called Grimace Knights, which is a mouthful.
Interesting. Sometimes the in-game, canonical name for the enemies is pretty good. There are these boomerang enemies we'll meet later that are known as boomers officially in the game. But other times we've given names to enemies. Yeah. Usually it's a pun. That's the kind of community that we have here.
Yeah, I mean the in-game names are hit and miss. For every boomer, there are Chunky Dodgers, which is a name, I guess. But I don't know. All right, the last arena here. I'm gonna try and get a really cool double deflect strat here, where I deflect both of these projectiles at the Lickitung. I'm not sure if I got it or not. It doesn't look like it. Basically, you want the Lickitung will get iframes if you hit the projectiles too close together. So you're sort of trying to hit one with the very tippy tip of your sword and one with like the very back of your sword, and you can get like a massive amount of damage. Unfortunately, it's like not quite RNG, but it's really finicky and precise, and I didn't quite get it there. But
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, those mages showing why they can be a little bit obnoxious as well. Just like the Grunt Arena, those mages will respawn infinitely until you kill the primary enemy there. So that's why Upper waited until afterward to actually deal with them, but then they were teleporting around and just causing all sorts of trouble.
So it goes, though. So we've been going around the manor and collecting 4 crow souls, which allow us to open this big door, which we're going to go to next. And this is going to be the pattern in all of the dungeons. We have to first get the 4 crow souls to open the door to make progress. But what could be on the other side of this door?
Probably some kind of treasure, I would assume.
One would think. Oh man, it is treasure.
Yeah, look, this giant chest. Nice. What will our reward be? You can just hear the Zelda music in my head here as I watch the animation. Oh,
no.
Wow. Huh. Not treasure. Strange. No, instead we get yet another arena. These are probably the most difficult. I wouldn't quite say it, but from a speedrunning perspective, but when you're playing this game casually, these arenas are particularly difficult. They are designed as challenges to sort of gate an ability. So much like the other arenas that Upper has been dealing with, the spawning of these enemies is consistent. So Upper is following a specific pattern of attacks and arrow shots to try to deal with them as quickly as possible. They will spawn in. All sorts of enemies that we've seen so far through the estate. This final phase can be a little bit rough because of the different attacks that this Lickitung can do, and all of the other enemies that will spawn in. Those imps fly about a bit randomly. The pots can be hard to deal with as well, but so far very nicely done.
All right. Yeah, not bad. A little bit slow, but no damage. So in a marathon, we take those.
Yep. All right, and now the reward finally comes. We get we gain the ability to actually shoot a fireball from this particular avarice, and that's going to be very useful, not just for what will be later the second half of that dungeon, which is where we're sort of expected to go next, but also for later access to other areas of the game. So we're actually going to ignore the second half of the dungeon for now and go directly to try to get the next ability. And that's kind of the way that this run goes. We collect all of the abilities, and then we do a bit of a boss rush at the end when we're slightly more powerful, and also have all of the movement abilities to get through things more quickly.
Yeah. We're going to make one brief pit stop here to purchase some upgrades. This is Darwin the Vault Keeper, where we can spend our soul on upgrades. We're going to dump everything into strength. Every strength upgrade gives you a 20% increase in your melee damage. So we're now 40% stronger than we were before, which is quite a difference. It also makes our sword range longer as well, which is quite handy.
Yeah, that's something I didn't think I realized when I played this game casually, is that strength upgrades actually extend the sword. And I do believe that the game actually does tell you that if you read the description, but unfortunately I am illiterate, so I didn't notice.
True. Reading. Imagine. I need that orb, thank you. So our soul count is looking pretty good, mostly because we killed all those extra imps. I'm going to shoot this fireball off screen to light this torch and summon one of the best NPCs in the game. This is Leg Day, who we always give claps for.
Yes, it is actually required for the run. If you don't clap for Leg Day, then it will be rejected by SRC moderators. This is 100% true and definitely not a joke, but we do love Leg Day. Leg Day is wonderful. Leg Day basically just brings us over to the second area here, which has, in my opinion, some of the best ambient music. These are the Overgrown Ruins, and they're absolutely wonderful.
It's true.
The music
in this
game,
area.
Yeah, the music in this game is generally fantastic, but man, this area is just nice.
Yeah, I was gonna just say the same. This area is very nice. The entire soundtrack is very nice. This game just has wonderful soundtrack. It's one of the reasons I like this game so much. Music is, for me, a very important part of video games.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was aiming for the flower.
So this area it introduces us to a new not quite enemy, and not quite mechanic, but basically these bomb flowers here that exist. When you hit them, they basically take aim at you and then shoot a bomb. We use that to open a bunch of walls, but also to kill enemies, because the enemies will get damaged by them. So there's a lot of fun bomb flower aiming that goes on here. This right here is probably my favorite isometric bit of skipping there. It looks like there's a wall there, but actually there's a little bit of space at the end of it, so you can just walk around it. It took kind of embarrassingly long for us speedrunners to actually realize that was a thing. I think it was like a year into running this game that somebody was like, hey, you can just walk around this wall.
Yeah, you don't even need to do anything fancy at all. Like, you can literally just walk right around it. There we did a thing called Mom Skip, which is a little bit harder, where you need to get a precise angle to roll over that wall. It doesn't save very much time, like 5-10 seconds at most, but it allows us to skip talking to the forest mom.
Yeah, that one's definitely a lot trickier than the other. But yeah, same idea. They're basically just abusing the geometry to be able to roll on top of a wall instead of having to go around it. Yeah, this is another mini arena. Once again, all the spawns are consistent, but the movement after doesn't necessarily have to be. These grunts are usually pretty okay to manipulate. The grunts will sort of just run at you without much thought behind it. They're much better than certain other enemies.
These grunts are, at least. The grunts do get sort of more and more aggressive throughout the game. The late game grunts are actually quite scary, particularly with the amount of strength that we're going to have at the time.
Yeah, especially once you're in watchtowers and the castle.
Okay, so I've been carefully counting how many grunts are dying to these flowers, because that is actually, again, very relevant for the soul count. I am right now set for soul for my next upgrade trip, because every enemy from here is basically mandatory that we have to kill, since they're all like in arenas.
Yep. This arena is
I've done this
probably
wrong, but that's okay.
the most fun one, because there are these 3 bomb flowers, and you can use, if you want to, you can exclusively use bombs from these flowers to do all of the actual fighting for you. And the optimal strat, I think, is pretty close to that, actually.
Yeah, I basically only ever attack the one bomb flower, or the one fire flower, I guess.
Yeah,
it's literally the only enemy I attack. I got a bit mixed up there. I forgot about wave 2, but anyway, we're fine. And we have plenty of HP.
Yeah.
We've just collected the forest horn. So the mother of the forest has tasked us with collecting this horn so that she can open up the entrance to the mushroom dungeon, I suppose.
Yep. Yeah, so we skipped the initial talking to the mom, but we went and grabbed the horn and brought it to her anyway. And now we get this fun little cutscene where the mom uses the horn, and it causes the entrance to the dungeon to open.
Great time for any announcements or donations or anything.
Yeah,
Mike?
while we have some jazz, I'd love to jump in. We have an extremely generous $50 donation from Jekka Lulu, who says, "Good luck, Upper and Math. We need to plant all the trees for the non-water burbs." Couldn't agree more.
That's actually quite a clever donation amount, because yeah, there are 50 seeds in this game that we have to plant if you want to get like 100%. 1 tree planted, $1 per tree. Makes perfect sense. Now that I've thoroughly explained the joke, we can move on. This is the mushroom dungeon. So unlike the first dungeon, where we were basically saving and quitting after every single arena, in this dungeon it's laid out such that we're going to have no save quits. So we're going to have to do four arenas back to back with no healing, which does not leave us with much room for error, but we're going to do our best.
There needs to be a pun count, I think. Chat, get on it. But yeah, this dungeon is it does have a lot of shortcuts and still a central hub area that you open, but unfortunately, just because of the way that it's designed, where you have to basically backtrack to open the shortcuts instead of the estate or the manor rather, where you use keys to open them. It ends up being basically just a linear walk through the entire thing to get the critters the fastest. And these arenas are not easy. Upper might make some of them look easy, but trust me, they are very difficult.
Yeah, this dungeon has like 2 of the most annoying enemies in the game, the spiders, which we've seen already, who can basically have a 50% chance to dodge any attack that you throw at them, and the hammer bros, who are just very tanky, dangerous enemies that we will see right here.
Yeah, these enemies are really hard when you're first fighting them. Upper's using a strat here where he stands basically on the side of their shield as they're spawning in, and is able to get a lot of additional hits in there. So those enemies have shields that normally would block the first couple of attacks before breaking. By standing there, he's able to get... It's a relatively precise location, but not too bad to get. Basically, it allows him to deal damage to both the shield and also the hammer bro at the same time.
Yeah, there's actually like a lot of tech around the hammer bros with, yeah, you can damage them and their shield at the same time, which is helpful. When their shield breaks, they get staggered, so like timing when exactly you break their shields is a thing that you can do as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's also some fun things. You can manipulate them into jumping in water, but we're sadly not going to be seeing that in this run.
Oh, this doesn't do it?
No, sadly not.
Unfortunate. Yeah, that's probably my favorite bit of hammer bro tech. For some reason, if you stand in specific spots, they will just sort of walk into the water, which kills them. I don't know why that happens, but I'm glad that it does. These spiders are probably the worst enemies in the mushroom dungeon, honestly, because of that. They can simply jump out of your way and cause all sorts of problems. These ones haven't been too poorly behaved, but
Yeah, they've been all right. And then a fun little bit of, again, isometric geometry. We can just roll over this wall and get out of here a little bit quicker.
Yep. Once again, something that we just didn't even try for a very long time.
I mean, yeah, it certainly doesn't look like you could roll. It looks like there's a wall there, but...
Yep. Turns out there isn't. Yeah, there's a lot of cases of that in this game, and generally we take advantage of it when possible. At this point, I think it's been combed over halfway decently, at least. I'll be surprised if I find any more big ones.
Here, the Frog King. This is the boss in this area. We're going to be seeing him a bunch of times, but again, he sort of appears a bunch throughout the arena, but we're not going to be seeing him. We're not going to be fighting him for quite a while yet.
Yep, he basically pops up to chat with us. Just looking for a friend.
So this is Water Arena, where no one has ever lost their speedrun before. Basically, easiest arena ever.
Yeah.
This is sarcasm.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone die here, certainly. This is where you can manipulate one of these hammer bros to walk into the water if you stand in a specific spot, but they do go about it pretty slowly, so I don't know actually in what circumstances it's faster, but it is definitely safer, probably.
Yeah, luring them into water is like about the same speed, maybe like a tiny bit faster. The downside to it is you don't get the soul for killing them. And that's 24 soul, which is just like actually a huge amount, unfortunately.
Yeah, wow. That's weird. I didn't realize you didn't get the soul if they wander into the water.
Yeah, it's very, very odd.
Like, I suppose
that's why we can't use that strat here.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess it's, yeah. Because I thought I had originally seen it in an any percent run, but it might have been a high strength route.
It was probably in an umbrella run where I would just get an extra soul orb so I could do it, because fighting those things with umbrella is not very pleasant.
That may have been it, yeah. Yeah, the umbrella is a weapon in this game that's it deals half the damage of the sword, and it's also got some other properties, but basically it's mostly used for challenge purposes.
Yeah. Or if you feel like staying dry, you know.
True. Yeah. After all, we are not a water bird.
Also facts.
All right, we've been tricked yet again.
Our next Avarice, yeah. Who would have thought? I thought this one had treasure for sure, but apparently not.
Apparently not. It had a bunch of enemies instead. Truly shocked. Yeah. So generally, the way that these Avarices work is they send enemies that you should have already seen before from your time in the dungeon. This enemy right here is an exception. This is an enemy that it actually occurs in the second half of the manor, but we haven't done that yet. So for the most part, the game does assume that you've continued on after you pick up the ability in each area. Same with this green mage, I believe. Actually, I think the green mage you might not even see.
Yeah, I think
outside of
this is probably the first sighting of a green mage.
Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, the game does expect you to go and continue in the dungeons, but we do things slightly out of order here. But yeah, now that we've completed that second Avarice, we get another ability, and this one is very fun. It is a bomb, and it will allow us to blow up some of these walls without the benefit of the bomb flower that we have been using through.
Also allows you to blow yourself up, which is always a pleasant time.
Yes, indeed. It does take 2 mana to use and quite a while to charge up, but there are cases where this is actually a very good damage source as well, because it deals quite a bit of damage. I don't actually know the full value. I think it's
3 damage.
3? Okay, yeah. So that's triple what the base sword would give, and triple what arrows or fire is doing. And yeah, that can be pretty good. There are also cases where Basically, we want to hit multiple things, or we have long enough to charge it where we're waiting for an enemy to spawn. So we'll see a couple uses of bombs for combat throughout the run, but for the most part, we'll just use it for access to new areas.
Yeah, as we're upgrading our strength, spells just really take a backseat as they just don't deal nearly as much damage for the most part. They have some usage because, yeah, they have long range and sometimes can hit multiple things, but for the most part, we're just using the sword. I did get an upgrade just now, and you may have noticed I only have 9 soul left over, which is sort of just how tight the soul routing is. Like, we've been gathering soul for 40 minutes almost, and we only got 9 extra soul.
Yeah, that's remarkably tight. Yeah, and you really do want to be able to get this strength upgrade here. Each strength upgrade adds 20% of your base sword damage. So this is a pretty significant difference for what will be one of the longer and also more difficult areas coming up soon, which is Castle Lockstone.
Mm-hmm. Here we're going to talk to Barb the Bard. It is technically, well, slightly faster to blow up this wall before talking to them by doing a really long distance shot. It makes that text that they talk to you with 1 text box shorter. So basically, like, saves almost no time. Recently, I've started just talking to them first so that I don't miss my bomb shot, which seems worth a lot more, because missing that bomb shot is actually just terrible.
Yeah, especially with the we have a tool that's allowed for skipping through text to help not have problems with having to mash for long sequences. And with that tool, it really is not saving a ton of time to save that 1 text box for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a fairly recent reroute, actually. I'm doing these crows in a slightly different order. I'm going to go do what was formerly Crow 2 first, and I'm going to save Crow 1 until the very end, which is slightly more optimal if you mess up, basically, because you don't have to worry about your HP. If you're low on HP after Crow 1, you don't have to save quit, basically. So it's technically slightly more optimal, but this was only has only become a thing in just like the past couple of months, I think.
Yeah, I don't actually think I've seen this particular reroute, but it does make sense. Yeah,
so here we're going to use some bombs. You can actually pick off this mage after they disappear, because their hitbox sort of lingers for a little bit.
Yep, yeah, and this is one of the, I think actually one of the first like real scripted uses of bombs that that I had seen in the run. It was nice to see, but basically, you know, the situation there is there's an enemy very far away and it's a mage. You really don't want it to, you really don't want it to have a chance to disappear and spawn randomly somewhere, which can be over the center of this where you can't reach them. Yeah, so that bomb helps a lot, or 2 bombs really. Yeah, and that there was a another hammer bro, but this one had actually extra HP. It was a golden hammer bro, and the bombs there helped us deal damage while destroying the shield, a bit like the strats that we had in the mushroom dungeon.
Yeah, whoever came up with that strat was a very good person. Dealing with that hammer bro without bombs is just like takes forever and is just so painful.
Yeah, the shield lasts even longer. It's just it's horrible. I'm very glad that the bombs strats were found as well. Yeah, that arena used to be one of at least my personal biggest run killers. It was an easy arena to die to, but with all the latest strats, it's gotten a little better. Nice job there on the quick hits there.
But why are they called diagram strats, Math?
Well, you see, let me tell you about MS Paint. No, so there are a lot of these laser puzzles where you need to hit basically small blocks in specific orders, while there are lasers that are either rotating around a room or turning on and off. And basically, in the early days of, well, actually even in some of the later days, but while trying to decide how to go about these puzzles the quickest way, we had some lovely drawings using MS Paint to show the path that should be taken in those rooms, and those are now called diagram strats after those.
This grave that we're walking past belongs to Theodore, spelled D-O-O-R, by the way.
Yep.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah, like I said, the game itself embraces the puns quite a lot, and the community does as well. So some of these names are puns, from the community. Some of them are puns from the developers, and we will not apologize for any of them.
All right.
Yeah, I think
fourth arena here, or third, I guess, and another use of bombs where we just use it to pick off some of these far away enemies.
Yeah, those backpack enemies can also be a little bit annoying at times, just because they will. The backpack acts as a shield if you hit it. On the subject of puns, I think my favorite is actually that bird, the lovely bird that's running toward us here. We call these halberds, but it's called B-I-R-D, and it's beautiful. I don't actually know what they're called in the.
Those are the chunky dodgers.
Oh man, yeah, no, that's
halberd is a much better name.
Yeah, so that was the fourth arena, which Upper has done third. So now he will go and do the first arena. It's so strange because I think of these arenas not by like what's in them, but by the
the numbers. I mean, my splits are literally Crow 2, Crow 3, Crow 4, Crow 1. Which honestly helps me remember to like do the new, because I've been doing this one first forever, right? So it's actually quite helpful. But yeah, it is kind of funny how that's like, I don't know how long we'll be calling that one Crow 2, but we probably will be for a while, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Alright, so that was another room with some diagram strats, but Upper was not going for the scariest of them, I believe.
No. Yeah, that room, the diagram strats are too crazy even for me.
Yeah, understandable.
Here I'm going to use this Poison Mage to shoot a shot at the Hammer Bro, which deals them some damage, which is quite nice.
Like that. I guess this is the first Green Mage sighting outside of Avarice.
Outside of an Avarice, probably. But anyways, the entire reason why we do this crow last now is I am not at full health, but I will get a free full heal by walking to the Avarice door. Whereas if we do this crow first, and you're low health, you have to just go and do crow 2 on whatever health you have, or take a save quit, which is slightly slower. So
yeah, that makes sense. I've always taken the save quit there, so just switching that
doesn't save
perfect sense.
much time. It's like maybe a second or so. And only if you actually took some damage and want to heal, but
yeah, all I'm hearing is that
we take what we can get, I guess.
Completely free PB.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean, if you want a completely free PB math, you could low strength is a thing.
That's true. All right, surely this time we get the reward, right? The crow's all ready. Look at the crow, stretching, ready to receive that reward. No. Still
Calisthenics.
It's beautiful. All right, this is the third Avarice and the final one that we'll be doing in this run. There does exist another Avarice, but it's not necessary to beat the game.
No, I don't believe it exists.
Yeah, it shouldn't exist, honestly. It is impossible. But yeah, here are our first sighting of the aforementioned boomers. These enemies are great. They will hop around and throw the boomerang that sits on their head there. It's beautiful. Yeah, this is probably... honestly, I find this Avarice to be easier than Abbott 2.
Oh, this is... The
Oh,
fact
are
that
you
I'm
getting?
streaming weirdly is so. This last enemy, their turning speed is based on your frame rate, and
Yeah.
I don't know. The way I'm streaming right now has apparently tanked my frame rate.
Yeah, I had that problem in a race,
Oh,
and I like chain died to this because of that. So the way that we normally fight those enemies, we call them SMOs. You stand basically at their left hip, and they never turn around. But at low frame rate, they actually will turn and try to hit you, and successfully hit you if you're not being careful. So good adaptation there, Upper, because they can be hard to fight.
Yeah. Oh
I
no,
know.
my
Is there a problem
controller
with
seems
your-
to be broken.
Oh no,
I can't seem to. Oh no, I have died.
that was very unintended.
Yeah. So we're taking a death warp here. This is one of the few. After an Avarice is one of the few locations where saving and quitting will take you somewhere different from dying. Dying will take you back to the last door, but saving and quitting just sends you back to the like the Avarice chest. So we take a death warp there, which just saves a little bit of time.
Yeah, the only intended death warp in the run, unless you die later, in which case that was also very intended.
Yep, exactly. But our reward for that third Avarice is the hookshot, which is great. It's basically the whole reason why, or one of the reasons why we've been skipping the second halves of all the dungeons. We just want to get the hookshot as fast as possible because it saves a ton of time in basically every dungeon. Lots of things, including enemies, are all hookshotable, so it's a very fast form of movement.
Yeah, even in rooms where we're not, skipping anything by hookshotting to something, it's just faster to, cross a room quickly by hookshotting something across it rather than rolling a few times. So this is actually the first of the second halves of dungeons that we're going to be doing. So we do continue on and do the rest of this area after getting the ability. With all the other abilities, we've simply grabbed the ability and then left. But actually, because there's a number of reasons that we do it in this order, but the routing works out really nicely like this because we are already in Lockstone, so it makes sense to stay here. And then you'll see where we get spit out after we finish this area. Sort of naturally leads us to the next.
Yeah. Also, fighting the bosses in reverse order, as we're going to do, gives us like the biggest rewards earliest, so we can get more upgrades and thus save more time against the easier bosses.
Yeah.
And they also have, I'm doing a skip here. Just skip that puzzle.
Ooh, nice. Yes.
The bosses randomly have, like the third boss actually has the least health, and the first boss actually has the most health for whatever reason. So it further just makes sense to do it in this order.
Yeah, it honestly feels like it was designed to do them in reverse order somehow. I know that makes literally no sense, but trust me, it makes sense. Also, the walls in this room are somewhat just suggestions.
Yeah, you can
for
just
some reason
right through them.
Yeah, we can just go right through. You can shoot arrows through them. You can hookshot through them. That obviously saves us a little bit of time. Probably the weirdest looking thing in the NMG run, but it's really minor, honestly, at the end of the day. All right, and this is probably my favorite part. After we load in from lighting this fourth brazier here, we get
I wonder where we should go next.
yeah, this lovely 15-second look at this elevator. So normally what would happen after we light it is we would see this actually descend or ascend. I actually don't know. It would come into frame in some way or other, and then it would end once it's there, but because we quit out, it just already was there, and we simply had a nice still shot of it for an extended period of time. All right, here's the everyone's favorite area of the game, the watchtowers, coming up here. So watchtowers are it's an area that has, I think, probably just about the highest density of enemies that you have to kill, like between arenas and gates that are locked. And we even skip like a large section of it. It still has like 4 different arena segments. It's kind of insane. So there's
it's a
a
pretty
lot
tricky section
of
for
combat.
sure.
Yeah. And to add on to the joy of this section, it does include everyone's favorite thing in video games, which is ice physics. So there are a couple of segments where we are actually on ice, and this particular rendition of Crow on Ice is perhaps not the most pleasant to play through, but one of the arenas has to be fought on the ice, and it can be definitely a bit tricky.
Yeah, we're just gonna stay cool, stay frosty, we'll manage.
Exactly.
In the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 1997 film Batman and Robin, chill.
How do you have that bit of Arnold Schwarzenegger lore just chambered?
I mean, do you not?
Honestly, I was questioning just about every part of that sentence, but at its conclusion, I went, no, it's us who are wrong. Oh, beautiful. All right, yeah, so here's the first segment of enemies that we have to kill. There's another one of these gates that is locked until all of these enemies are dead. They're mostly these archers and a couple of grunts, so it's pretty quick. And then up here we have the next indication, or the next incident of it, which is all of the enemies we just ran past we can ignore, but this halberd at the end we have to kill to get the ladder to spawn. And because we love the arenas here, we go straight into another arena, this one with a laser pointing at us from the center. So you can see this area gets a little bit intense with the required combat. There's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of difficult enemies as well, but Upper is making it look easy.
So I'm hopefully going to get these two boomers to be in sync with each other. I think this timing should work. Basically, I want them to be jumping in sync with each other so that I can just do this and beat them up at the same time.
Nice.
Third jump, that's fine.
Yeah, almost had it. Yeah, those boomers are also, you do have to kill them as well. And they can be a bit tricky because if they get out of sync, then it's a bit painful. They end up basically wasting a lot of time because you can only hit one at a time.
Yeah. And yeah, you saw I did a short little skip there. We can just hookshot over that gate. If I remember correctly, I mean, I didn't run this game back then, but I believe in earlier patches you could hookshot over a different gate, and then they fixed that and made it so that you could hookshot over this gate in like the same patch for some reason. So we hookshot over it, and it's great. It skips a good chunk of this area.
It's beautiful. I think I didn't run either, at least when that was the case. I think on the patch I started running on, we could do this one. So that's really funny. I don't think I'd actually heard that before.
So one nice thing about the ice physics is at least the grunts and most of the other enemies are actually really bad on ice too. They will like skid past you while trying to hit you sometimes as well. But,
yeah, the ice affects everyone. Yeah, that area is the first little ice area, and luckily you don't actually have to kill anything there. So you can just run past it. Sometimes the mages are good to kill just because they will follow you to the ends of the earth. But this here is the ice arena that I was warning about, and it is definitely the trickiest arena, I think, in this run. One you have to be careful for, especially, well, Upper, you've practiced it plenty, I'm sure, but for me, in the low strength route, this would be terrifying. For some reason, this wave in particular, you don't actually need to kill every enemy in the wave. You can leave one alive. So this backpack enemy down at the bottom, Upper's not really going to worry about killing just there. I think that's the only arena in the game where that's true, where you can leave it.
Yeah, it's very weird. I don't know why that happens, but
I feel like they miscounted how many enemies there were. Yeah, and this is the final wave of the ice arena here. There are a couple of these hammer bros that spawn. Upper did a quick strat there where you sit where the first one spawns in order to kill it quickly, and then continue on to the other. Nice.
And then a short time save there. We can climb that ladder while that cutscene is playing if you like get to the base of the ladder before the cutscene starts, which is why I finished that last enemy off with an arrow shot from a little farther away.
All right, this is Betty. Betty is terrifying in a casual playthrough, and also when you start speedrunning, because the strats look very scary. The idea here is we want to stand very close to Betty and abuse our roll iframes in order to continue damaging her. It can be really tricky because if you get hit or get off rhythm, then things get a lot harder. And the idea is we want to skip the rolls, which happened right there. Oh, unfortunate.
I did actually skip the roll phase.
Yeah.
I just I didn't believe that I dealt enough damage because I got way off cycle there and then took a bunch of damage, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that's what can happen with Betty, unfortunately. The good news with Betty is that it's very, very quick to retry. Oh yeah, like I said, that was a very intentional death warp, the second one in the run. Just to set up this this clean second attempt Betty here. Yeah, but the damage cycle is pretty tight to get in. It's very hard, at least in my experience, it's hard to do the roll skip on the second attempt.
Yeah, on the refight, it's basically impossible.
Yeah.
Because her whole attack pattern is like one cycle too fast.
Yeah.
There we go.
Nice. There we go. All right, Betty down.
So that is our first giant soul, the first of 3 that we are trying to get. And from here, we're basically going to go from soul to soul to soul and just hammer out the second halves of all the dungeons.
Yep. Now that we've got all our movement, and also we get quite a bit of souls from souls. I don't know what the plural is, but we get a good amount of currency from Betty here, so we can use it for upgrades as well. Yeah, we get this cutscene coming up here, which is also probably my favorite cutscene in the game. I think it's pretty adorable. There is a fun little trick in the glitched run where you use a glitch that basically preserves your momentum, and in this cutscene, you end up doing little circles, zoomy circles, while the Lord of Doors is talking, and it's beautiful. But regardless, this cutscene is fun. The world's best lord there, Bug, is just perfect.
While we get our well-deserved applause, can I jump in for a sec?
Yep,
Sure.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Amazing. I would just love to remind everyone that we are raising money currently for One Tree Planted. One Tree Planted is an environmental charity focused on reforestation. The vision of One Tree Planted is we want to make it simple for anyone to help the environment by planting trees. Together we can restore forests, create habitat for biodiversity, and make a positive social impact around the world. I would also like to start up a very impromptu bid war, which is to say, if you do not address me in the donation comments, my opinion that Tier 2 Inner Furnace is the best of the dungeon soundtracks in this game will go unchallenged. So I invite everyone to take it up with me in the donation comments. Thank you all so much.
Beautiful. Thank you, Quack.
All right, so now we're back in the Mushroom Dungeon, and we're going to go fight the second of the bosses in the Flooded Fortress. And as we have alluded to several times, crows are not, in fact, water birds, and thus do not like water.
Yes, so as you might expect from an area called the Flooded Fortress, there is actually quite a bit of water here. And a lot of what we need to do for this part of the run, which is actually a little bit serene. I kind of like this entrance to Flooded Fortress here. But we need to make sure that we don't roll into the water, which is easier said than done, it turns out. You would think it might be easy, but trust me, it's not.
Yeah, it's sort of a weird section. I mean, I like it a lot too, but yeah, just kind of like you've just gone through Watchtowers, beaten Betty. You're like 3/4 of the way through the run, then you just have this really long, peaceful section.
Yeah.
With this quiet music, but it's actually kind of stressful because it's very easy to actually dunk here, and like you really don't want to take damage before like the fortress proper.
Yep.
But,
yeah, it's a little bit of a of Whiplash. Watchtowers is, like I said, the most combat heavy portion of the game, and then Betty is one of the most sort of like intense boss fights that we do. Very it's very quick if it's going well, but it's also very scary and relatively precise compared to the other bosses. And then you just come here and do, effectively just movement for a solid, minute or minute and a half. It's definitely a little bit strange when you're doing the run.
But yeah, this might actually be my favorite music in the game, I think. Very peaceful.
Yeah, it's pretty good. That was nice there. Skipping, needing to open that gate, that saves just a few seconds. But again, it's a little piece of playing with the geometry of that area. That's actually pretty hard to do. That's definitely not a completely free skip, unlike some of the other ones.
Yeah, it's not too bad with the keyboard setup, but yeah, it's not free either, for sure. Alright, and now we go into Fortress proper, which might be like... it competes with Watchtower for, like, scariest segment of run, for sure.
Yeah.
There is a lot of enemies in here.
Yeah. We skip through a lot of this area, and that probably saves it from being, like, even more terrifying. But I think one of the things that makes this area scary is that there are a lot of mages that spawn in here, and they will just follow you. They will continue to follow you forever. If you don't stop to kill them, then they will follow you actually into the arena that lies at the end of this area. Since we're basically just running through the whole area and trying to skip as much as possible, it's very easy to get slightly overwhelmed by all the mages here. But yeah, right here is a trick which we called this Mage Skippant because it's replaced another trick that we used to do where we had to actually use one of those mages to hook shot over an area. But that was just standing at a specific location and shooting at the right angle to be able to basically open the shortcut to this arena without having to go all the way around. Saves quite a bit of time. Definitely makes this area less painful.
And this is a unique arena in that a lot of the enemies in here are actually spawning on a timer. So like as long as you do this arena like fast enough, you're basically doing it optimally. As long as we're like on top of the final enemy as they spawn, which is this one right here.
Yep.
We're good.
Yeah, that might be the only arena that does that as well, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think the first waves are still waves, but then the later ones are not, or I might be mistaken.
Yeah.
I know the final wave is definitely just on a timer.
All right, who's doing the title card here? Matthew, you got this, or am I doing it?
You can go for it, Upper.
All right.
I believe.
So this is our next boss, the Frog King, or as they are legally known, the King of the Swamp. Guardian of the Flooded Fortress, Lord of his domain, ruler of all he surveys, champion of the people, keeper of the five oaths, first of his name, second of his other name, he was without middle, initial, or mercy, destroyer of all those who would question his rightful rule or look at him askance, eater of the vanquished, devourer of the indolent, guzzler of the non-committal, bestower of wrathful opprobrium, and font of most wondrous beneficence, all glory to him and his mace. Holy basher of toads, not frogs, but really what are toads anyways? Like worse frogs, right? Uglier too. Smartest creature in all the land, really clever like that Einstein guy, but more handsome and okay, hit the word count.
Beautiful. And we do refer to this boss by that name every single time.
Certainly
His
every
business
single
card is pretty
marathon.
crowded. That's all I can say.
Yes. But yeah, as far as the boss actually goes, the way this works is effectively alternating between this side, where the Frog King will shoot out these little mini bombs that will destroy tiles, and the other side, where the Frog King will do a Dodongo attack and basically breathe in, and the right thing to do is to feed him a bomb. So luckily, the title card takes up most of the fight, so that was over pretty quickly. Nice done, Upper. And that is our second giant soul.
I would also just like to point out that for my mic check, Math's mic check, as well as Quack's mic check, we all did the King of the Swamp title card.
Yes.
Sometimes you just need to let the world know exactly who Frog King is.
It's important.
All right, and we go straight back to the first dungeon, the manor, and into the basement. We're gonna head to deal with Grandma finally.
Yeah, so Grandma, we caught a glimpse of Grandma early when we were first going through the manor, but we are finally going to go and actually take care of what we started. This area is pretty dang good, honestly. I like the furnace.
Yeah,
there's...
I love this section, the observation rooms.
Yeah.
Of note, we are not supposed to have the hookshot at this point, and you can really just see how much time it saves.
Yeah.
As basically everything in here is hookshotable.
Yeah, this is one of the more fun ones. That saves a almost negligible amount of time, I think, but it looks great, so it's of course required for the run. Yeah, so there aren't any like massive skips that are used. Most of everything that the hookshot brings us in this area is just a couple of seconds of time save here and there, but it really adds up. As you can see, almost literally every room hookshotting to these various platforms, hookshotting to boxes, to enemies later on. There's just so many good places to use it.
Yeah. It also makes this section a lot more fun. There's another category of this game called Hot Pot, which is basically just racing to Grandma as fast as possible, where you don't have hookshot in this area, and man, the movement in this area is just so boring.
Yeah. Yeah, with hookshot it really makes it more interesting. Oh.
That does not work. Okay, we'll go around. I was trying to bomb that platform to make it go over this gap, and then I could hookshot over to it, which is like a cool little bit of swag. And saves a bit of time too, but not sure what went wrong there.
Yeah, the bomb for some reason didn't activate the platform. It's weird.
But yes, this is the area where all of these pistons actually move in time with the music, which is a really nice touch.
Yeah,
which is why it's the best. Good... Chat, get at me.
Yeah, the sound design in this game is just beautiful. So yeah, here we have this enemy up here, this like doctor looking guy that shoots these toxic bombs. That is the first time we're supposed to see one. We've seen one actually in an Avarice earlier, but yeah, it just kind of harasses you while you're trying to deal with that arena. But luckily in this game there's friendly fire, so you can use them to your advantage.
Well, at least for poison orbs. I don't think anything else has friendly fire, but
yeah,
those certainly do. I'm gonna try a new skip here. I don't actually go for the skip and runs because it's rather inconsistent, but in theory you can hookshot over this wall sometimes, which is kind of cute.
Yeah, saves a little bit of time there, having to you'd otherwise have to go around using that platform. Oh, that was slightly rude. But yeah, all these pistons, as Upper said, do move in time with the music, and some of them, sometimes that can make certain cycles easy. Other times it can make it a little bit tricky, just depending on, specifically when you enter a room as the music is going. But mostly that comes up in not quite this room, but the next.
Yeah, the next one. There's a very cute, like, tight cycle we try to make.
Yeah. Nice of them there. You can beat the pistons on each of those segments, but it's a little bit tricky because if you're a little bit late, it's actually quite painful. If you run out of mana there, you need 3. We only have 4 to start with, so if you miss 2 shots, then you have to basically backtrack through the whole thing and go and collect some more.
Also, these furnace hitboxes are just, like, make 0 sense. They're, like, fireballs will just miss them all the time.
Yeah.
For no apparent reason.
It can be a little bit finicky. But yeah, that was the room where Upper was looking to hit the tight cycle, and I believe he did hit it. If mine eyes did not deceive me. But it can be a little bit harder depending on just exactly when in the music you enter the room. But yeah, this is Grandma, and Grandma is a little bit rude to us, but this is normally the first giant soul that you'd be fighting in the game. The actual fight is not too bad, but she actually has kind of an unreasonably large amount of health, so it is quite a long fight.
Yeah, and this is with like a bunch of extra upgrades for sure. I mean, it makes sense as like, yeah, she isn't that like hard per se, and you have tons and tons of time to hit her. So like, from a design point of view, I can see why they gave her so much health, I guess. But it is a bit odd that like the bosses literally just have less and less health as you go.
Yeah, it's very strange. I think probably like in terms of how long you're in the fight, that's probably how it's balanced. I think like for Betty in particular, the health was lowered after playtesting.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Tried to do hotpot for the pans, but I guess not.
For the pans, you're too good at it.
That was actually unintentional. I like actually just like meant to say fans, but okay.
We take the unintentional.
We'll take the
unintentional
puns.
Yeah. Yeah, that is our third giant soul, which is actually all that is needed to go and open Death's Door, which, if you haven't noticed, is actually the name of the video game. So that's probably pretty important, and this must be the end of the game.
I mean, the way that you said that makes it almost sound like it isn't the end of the game, but it basically is, isn't it?
It's pretty close, but yeah, we have a couple more things that we'll need to do after we go and deliver these great souls. But yeah, we're about to go and meet probably the best character in the game, and that is the namesake of Death's Door, being Death. Death is adorable, and I love Death in this game. You will all see why in just a couple of minutes. Yeah, we go and bring these giant souls back to the Grey Crow, who originally asked us to go and collect them. Basically, we were doing the Grey Crow's work for him because he's lazy and bad at his job.
Yeah, the story of this game is basically we get pulled into work, given a really difficult task to do. We go do it, and then our older, tenured coworker messes it up and forces us to do 3 times as much work.
Yep.
Basically how the story goes.
It's very true. Yeah, the Grey Crow had been tasked with collecting these giant souls, and collecting. Oh man, I'm forgetting the lore.
A soul behind Death's Door.
Yeah, okay. A soul behind Death's Door, but was unable to open it because these giant souls had locked it. Anyway, there's Death. Death is adorable. I think my favorite thing about Death's introduction here is that the title screen for Death is actually the same as the death screen when you die, but inverted. So it's like looking through it the other way, effectively, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice touch for sure.
Yeah, this is one of the longest segments of text / cutscene / lore. I guess, Quack, if you've got any messages or anything you want to read.
Absolutely. Well, if you like the gameplay going on with Death's Door, I'm delighted to tell you that it is one of a handful of games contributed to us by Devolver Digital for a giveaway. For just $5, you can be entered to win any of a huge litany of Devolver games, among them Death's Door, as well as Hotline Miami 1, Terra Nil, and The Messenger. So if you've liked what you've seen so far and want to give this game a spin yourself, that's the way to do it.
beautiful. Thank you, Quack. Yeah, so here the Grey Crow has been informed that the soul that he's looking for is not here, I believe, is the way that it works. Again, I'm a bit rusty on the lore here. But the Grey Crow ends up deciding to attack us. Is a little bit angry at everything. Not particularly us, honestly. I think just angry at the Lord, and we're the target here. So we have to actually do this fight. This fight is very difficult. Definitely one of the hardest fights in the game. And especially with the build that we have at this moment, it becomes especially difficult. The way that it works is every single time you hit a Grey Crow, he spawns one of these little birds that we call murderlings, and yikes, yeah. They can spawn randomly and get in your way, and
including right on top of you.
Yes. So the fact that they can spawn on top of you can make things really tough. The good news with this fight is it is very quick to retry. When you retry,
oh,
you
man,
also
could you imagine if you had to watch like the full cutscene every time?
Oh my goodness. I think I would have never finished my first run in that case. Yeah, but luckily on the retry, there's also a little bit of an opportunity to get some free damage in, as the Grey Crow is kind of screaming at the start. Yeah, these murderlings get in the way. They cause all sorts of problems. They can be helpful as well because they work as projectiles, which means when you deflect them, they deal double damage, or double what your attack would have dealt, which is nice, and that's where a good chunk of damage comes from. But nicely done on the second attempt there, Upper.
Yeah, wasn't too bad.
All right. So yeah, one last little chat with Death, and it turns out that our boss, who sent us on this quest to begin with, and also was the world's best lord, as we saw on a mug, which is the ultimate arbiter of truth, turns out actually not the greatest individual in the world. And
what?
Yeah, we're in a bit of a revolt here. So right here, we are going to actually go after the Lord of Doors. The Lord of Doors, however, has set up a large gauntlet in the way, which is, just the kind of thing you do when you're, the CEO of a company. You make sure that in order to be reached, you need to have a large string of platforming and maybe also some boss arenas, things like that. I know that's how things worked at my job.
Yeah, it checks out.
Yeah. But yeah, basically the way that this works is there's a series of mini fights here with the Lord of Doors. He has a set amount of health in each of these fights, and then we'll also summon all of these lovely little enemies that we call doorbulls. They are basically just bowls with a door on them. And yeah, they can hit you, but they just run in a straight path, so it's pretty easy to avoid them if you know where they're going to spawn. They can also be iframed through, so if you roll through the head, then that's actually good enough to get through the durable, but it can be a little bit tricky to do it at the right time. Yeah, between each of these platforming sections, there is another one of these combat sections, and there's a set amount of health. The idea is that we want to deal enough damage to actually skip all of the long attack phases that happen. So pretty much for all of the little mini arenas that we have, there's a phase where Lord of Doors is doing basically attacks that more or less just stay in place, and we want to stay in that. There's also a special attack that the Lord of Doors will do in each area, which is sort of reminiscent of the boss from that area. This is a bit of a revisiting of all of the previous areas that we just gone through where we got the giant souls, and he borrows an attack from each of the bosses for that. We want to avoid those because they're all pretty slow. But there's a specific damage rotation that deals exactly enough damage to go ahead and get out of there. And then there's also a lovely trick which is called Instadoor, where we stand where the door would spawn. And you saw it right there. That's where the door would spawn to go to the next area. If we're already standing there, then we get instantly transported without having to wait. So nicely done on the gauntlet there.
Yeah, it was a good gauntlet for sure. Got all the fast cycles and insta-doors, so can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and now that we've made it through the gauntlet, we have finally earned the right to have an audience with the CEO as it goes. I do think it's a little bit strange that we went through a door at the top of this, and then we went through a large gauntlet that brought us back to sort of like the bottom of the same room. But you know, it's fine. We don't need to worry about that. So anyway, this is the Lord of Doors, and as you can see, they don't think they're going to ever die. We're going to try to prove them wrong here. And yeah, this will be the final
to an absolute bop of a soundtrack, no less.
Yes, yeah, this is a great theme for the last Lord fight. You know, there's really no misses in the soundtrack, but this definitely is great. And just as a heads up, the time will be on the final hit on this boss, so that'll be coming up relatively soon. But yeah, you get to see some of the attacks that the Lord of Doors borrowed from the previous bosses here. So that attack was from the Frog King. This attack here is actually from the Guardian of the Door, the very, well, not quite first, but the second boss that we fought. These other attacks are the you know, regular attacks that cause them to stand in place. Nice fight there. That's time.
That was a weird last hit. That is timed, by the way.
GG.
I like somehow hit him through that orb. Weird. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very clean last Lord fight there. I'm just gonna wait for our stream delay clock. It looks like the time RTA on our end was 1:24:47, so nicely done.
Nice. Not too bad. Yeah, we had a couple of unfortunate deaths, but overall, I'm pretty pleased with the run.
Yeah, great run.
Yeah. Well, I know it's a double header, so we are not done hearing the dulcet tones of Uppercaserole and Cthulhu, but before we swap over to the next game, shout out your Death's Door people and tell the people that are here now where they can find you.
Sure. So yeah, the Death's Door community is really great. If you're looking for a great speedrunning community to join, we would be happy to have you. You can find us on the SRC page. There's a link to the Discord. That's for myself. I stream on twitch.tv/Uppercaserole.
Amazing. So we're going to take a super quick break while Upper here swaps games, and then we'll be right back after the brief intermission with some Hollow Knight any % hit list. Don't go anywhere.